answer. So if you would ask a question, please, when you come up, and then we will give each of whomever you would like to respond a chance to respond. And if you would please keep those answers reasonably short as well. So who first has a question, please? If you would, ma'am.
Okay.
You want to come to the microphone?
No, I can speak. Can you guys hear me?
The rest of the audience
We
can
can't hear you.
Okay.
Plus, for filming purposes, you're going to be a star, girl.
I have a question, just so we can form you here, and you'll get to understand.
Okay. You would please come to the microphone.
No one will be turned down.
Close enough?
Get close, like an ice cream.
Okay. I've been raised in Catholicism my whole life. And you were saying, you know, the terrorists and all of that such. Now, if you've got people who are Jews, Christians, Protestants, Baptists, and everything like that, that rape, kill, and all of this, would you disprove Christianity as a religion? Would you disprove, Judaism as a religion? You know, just because there's certain people who are in, that would consider themselves Muslim just because they do wrong, you're going to disprove Islam as a religion? I don't understand that.
Okay, Furman, do you want to answer that question?
Anyone who feels like they've got the answer to that.
I can start it out and I think it's a great question. I think I was one of the first to say Timothy McVeigh, who represented himself as a Christian, to me is not a Christian. And neither is Osama bin Laden a Christian. Anyone who goes against the morals of society, to me, are not either Christian and or Muslim or Jewish. What was the question?
It was,
You didn't hear the question.
No, I didn't hear the question.
Pass it on to one of the others, then, please.
I think we lost how he was answering.
I think the question was, if I'm correct, was that would you try to discredit Christianity, assuming that there were people in that faith who did violent acts, such as Timothy McVeigh and others? I don't know that that was directed towards us. I assume it was directed towards Tom, so I'll pass it on.
Yes. But the answer is yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Okay, we might ask a question. Who decides who is a Christian? Who decides who is a Jew? Who decides who is a Muslim?
I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're now doing theology. We're here to deal with political Islam, which really hasn't been interjected in. Islam has the difficulty of uniting a theological system and a political system in a unified manner within a culture. That's Middle Eastern and Middle Eastern methodology. United States, that's where we're having the problem. So I'm here to deal with political Islam, but I'm shifting as a theologian. I'm trained as a theologian. You guys will find this fascinating, because I spend a good deal of my life debating gentlemen like our moderator over there, who's a Unitarian. And I think if we shifted to a theological debate, you would see very quickly what a Christian is and what a Christian isn't. First of all, a Christian needs to believe in the actuality of an existence of God. Sir, you believe God actually exists?
I believe the word God stands for the...
See, here we go. Mumbo jumbo. Listen to this stuff. Go ahead.
Now,
Go ahead, you can speak.
You ask a question and you don't give me the courtesy of answering.
This is a tough game, debating, but go ahead.
No, I asked you, do you give me the courtesy of answering the question you asked?
Go right ahead.
Okay. The word God stands for the mystery before which we all stand. It is a mystery. If it were not a...
Next question. Do you believe Jesus Christ actually existed?
I believe Jesus of Nazareth existed, and he was a prophet of Judaism.
Do you believe that he was God?
No more than you are.
Okay. See, if we were to take time to delineate these differences, he says he's a Christian, I say I'm a Christian.
I did not say I'm a Christian. You said that.
Reverend, says Reverend on the paper here.
I'm a certified member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, founded in 1825. Thomas Jefferson was a member, and we do not have to be Christians to be Unitarians.
Okay, so you're not a Christian.
I did not say I was a Christian.
Or would you say you're not a Christian?
I think I'm a Christian in the sense that I take the life
Okay,
of
that's
Jesus
my case.
as the
Let me
disciple.
rest my case and
No,
not belabor a theological argument. The point is, when you start doing refined theology, there's fundamental principles that you either adhere to, and my Muslim brothers and sisters, you would agree more with me than with this gentleman that you have to have certain beliefs in order to be a Muslim or a Christian. You don't think you have to have certain beliefs. You have to say Allah is God and Muhammad is his prophet. That's an essential belief to be a Muslim.
Mr. Trento, one of the basic foundations of all religion is courtesy and kindness. Do not ask me a question again and then interrupt me before I have a chance to answer.
Sometimes I'm a little harsh in this quest for truth.
You're rude.
Sometimes I'm rude in the quest for truth. I admit that. Sometimes I'm rude in the quest for truth. This truth is very, very important.
Next question, please.
First, I want to explain something. That is that we've had about 40 Muslim students live in our home for over a 10-year period of time. My older daughter's wedding, we had a Muslim girl who was her maid of honor. But the one thing that I noticed, and I consider all the people here as moderates, is that in Islam, you have such a difficulty in criticizing your faith or the practices that go on in your country. And I'm wondering, and this is a discussion we had with some of the students, is how can you improve something if you can't speak openly about it? And along with that is, what I see is from a lot of moderates, it seems that there's more energy spent in defending yourselves against what you think are criticisms that really are directed toward terrorism, but you spend more time in protecting yourself and defending yourself than you do in condemning the extremism that's in Islam. And I think it works to your harm. I think that if the moderates were more outspoken, and maybe there are good reasons why you don't want to be or you can't be, but I think it would be better received if you were more outspoken against the terrorism, and then I think your justification would be greater.
Dr. Mohammed, would you like to respond to the fact that he's presuming that most Muslims are not able to be moderate and accepting of criticism?
Yes. First of all, Muslims in the United States in particular, I assume you're speaking of Muslims in the United States, sir. You see, when we are asked...
No, there were Saudis and everybody else states.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Since World War I, every single Islamic majority nation has been conquered by Europe, with the exception of certain areas in the Saudi Gulf region. What that means is that Muslims have come under what they see to be the colonial yoke. And when they are asked questions, the questions directed to them 99.9% of the time come from those who are of a Judeo-Christian background, assuming their norm as the norm. So you're always on the defensive. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? How can you accept Muhammad as a prophet? And we turn back and we get defensive because we say, well, let's talk about why do you accept Jesus as God? That's the problem. You always put on the defensive. Now you talk about the Muslims not speaking up against the terrorists. Have you read this book, sir, Mecca and Main Street? That's the problem. Because after 9/11, throughout the world, as I said, I don't usually appear with the Muslims. I'm against them usually. Throughout the world, Muslims, and I have been at the forefront, and several others have been to, have spoken out against it, have passed fatwas. But you see, those don't make the news. Somebody's hand gets cut off. Oh, sure, that makes the news. Fatwa against terrorism doesn't make the news.
Okay. Mohammed, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah. I wanted to bring up something, and this is where Mr. Gabath and I might disagree, is that they suggest that 1 in 10 Muslims adheres to this ideology that you hear about in the session. Unfortunately, you weren't able to see that today. But I want to put a little game together here. 1 in 10, I guarantee you there's 20, maybe 30 Muslims in this room today. So that's 3. Now we have CARE in this room today. We have people from the MSA. All of these people are from these organizations that are listed to be under the Muslim Brotherhood, these arms and extensions of these people who are going out to destroy this country. How am I going to identify them? Because I have news for everybody in the room. You're defying the odds if you suggest that there is not a radical person in this room. And that's why it's sometimes hard for us to say, oh, well, that person's bad. Because we don't even know who they are. So most of the time, it's not like they're out there saying, hey, look at me. No, they're not. They're not there. It's a wonderful question, and I appreciate it, but it's a very difficult answer. And I hope that clears it up, because I'm really, by saying that there's no radical person in this room, I'm severely going against everybody that made obsession and most of what's said on the mainstream propaganda against Islam. So that's my point.
To just flesh that out a bit, just because there may not be radical elements in this room doesn't mean the proposition that I stated at the beginning. And by recollection, the fact that there are Muslims actively engaged, I'm using words carefully, in a grand jihad to sabotage American civilization for the desire to implement Sharia and Islamic law. Those aren't my words. That comes out of the Muslim Brotherhood doctrine that was written in 1991 and is being taught in some of the mosques, some of the 200 mosques that Dave has been in, and he'll show you some of the literature right here. So there may not be one person who holds this position here, but it doesn't mean that we're not utilizing massive amounts of military force, massive amounts of intelligence. I flew here today, had to take my clothes off to go through the thing because of the fear that everyone has about these folks that are there. The threat is a real, clear, and present danger. You just said it's difficult to find those individuals. That's where we need to work together to find those individuals, for sure. He shows up everywhere. Let me tell you.
Yes, and I'll be there next Saturday.
What's that? He knows my schedule better than
Original.
me.
Yeah, we follow him wherever he goes in the state of Florida. Thank God we're able to do that. Now, to answer that comment briefly, one of the problems we have as Muslims, really, is when we deal with the ignorance of the people who try to criticize Islam or talk to us about Islam. They don't know what Islam teaches. Now, I'm here as an imam and as an activist in Islam, okay? I want to tell you, the Quran itself, and that's where Muslims get their direction, strictly from the Quran and strictly from the teaching of the Prophet. Not the Muslim Brotherhood, not CARE, not any scholar, not any organization.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 1 second. The Quran itself is against extremism. It says it clearly. لا غلو في الدين، لا تغلو في دينكم. Do not commit excess in your beliefs and your adherence to the belief. Do not be an extremist. The Quran itself forbids terrorism clearly, and that's the true Islam, not the reactions of some people you see on the street. Don't judge Islam. That's our problem. You're judging Islam by the reactions of few people and the actions of fewer people. And everybody in the Muslim world, including us here in the United States, we condemn the crime of 9/11 and whoever did it. And I hope they are put in hell. It is a crime.
So that everybody can get their question asked, I'm going to insist we be a little shorter on our answers, please. The next question.
Can I suggest that to direct the question to a specific person on the panel, this way we don't have to answer.
That's what you want, please.
I think there is no right, wrong here. I think we're coming at it from we're defending issues that really don't need to be defended in the right way. Mohammed T, is that your name? No, I mean, I thank you from the bottom of everybody's heart for your military service. And in a million years, nobody thinks your daughter is going to be a terrorist. She might. My 2 kids might. I sure as heck hope not. And I know in my heart your daughter will not. But the point is, Yasser Arafat himself said that the struggle would be won through the womb of the Palestinian woman. That's his words. So you can't, that's the context where that's taken from. But my fight here is that everybody, you're all saying you don't know who the radical in this room is, or it's those people over there. They're not us. Don't blame Islam. I'm a Jew. And let me tell you, just like the other gentleman said about Timothy McVeigh, who said he was a Christian, Christians stood up in arms and said, this guy needs to fry or die or be in jail forever. What we, the people, my friends, want to see is we want to see your father, like he just said he does. We repudiate. We want you to shout from the highest yardarms. We want to all be locked armed and run and walk through Dale Mabry here in Tampa, which is our main street. Locked arms and say, we repudiate these people. We don't want to have anything to do with them. That's not Islam. But just to kind of say, I have the feeling that those people think that you're the perfect foil for them. That they've got this thing going on, that's a small percentage, whether it's 10% or 1%, to me doesn't matter. That those are the people blowing up countries, taking over countries, and they have you two to do their bidding here to kind of keep things going. Look, you wear Western clothes, you're well-spoken, you're brilliant men, you've served in the United States military, that you're the perfect dupe to kind of keep it going until, you know, what's happening in Europe is now coming here.
So your question?
My question is that I think we're not on different sides of it here. I think you're responding to different questions, and Tom is responding in a different way. I agree with you. I don't want these people around, and I want you, because you're the representative of Islam. I can't stand up and say, my question is, why don't you stand up at the highest yardarms and get airtime? I will donate the first $10,000 to get you on the air, to stand up and say, we are locking step against these radical people. Now, radical, define them any way you want to. Don't like me. I don't hate Islam, I don't hate Jews, I don't hate Christians. But we need to see it from you, otherwise we lump you all together because we're not sure. That's not ignorance. Because look, if you have this group that's blowing things up around the world and killing people, if you don't repudiate...
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm gonna answer the question. Okay, what I was referring to was the new film, The Third Jihad. And they actually literally, what you just said, they suggest that Muslims are infiltrating the United States at all levels of government, and you can't tell them apart. I'm trying to say, stop trying to... That's what
you couldn't tell them apart in this room, so they're...
Well, exactly, that's my point, but we don't need films like The Third Jihad that lump Muslims and call it... My point was, that statement about the birth rates was suggesting that Muslims are breeding terrorists. That is what I was saying. And I apologize if I didn't make that clear.
Okay.
And that was my condemnation of the movie. I would love to talk to you after, because I think it was more of a personal thing. And one last thing I want to say, if Muslims start getting on Dale Mayberry in big numbers, I guarantee you they're going to shut us down, because SOCOM and Southcom are right there.
The Jews and the Christians will be with you.
All right, I'm going to insist. Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Mark Bishop. My name is Mark Bishop. I'm with one of the members of the group that was told to leave here because evidently I don't have a right or a voice to stand out there and hand out flyers. Is that openness and exchange?
Okay, you were not asked to leave. You were asked to please come in.
No, let me finish. No, I wasn't asked, but your silence was deafening. You didn't ask us to stay. Anyway, my question is...
Sir, it's on camera. I asked you to please stay. But if you have a question,
if you would have insisted on staying, I think you would have stayed. I'm not trying to come at you directly one-on-one. This is not a person attacking you. I'm just saying the general philosophy of it is gone. If we're not asked to stay, then we're asked to leave by some low-level employee up here on this building. Oh, he has the right to tell us to leave. And he didn't stop it. Anyway, my point being, and I do have a question for you about the, you were talking about the Reverend, was it Storm, who was the person 1880 reference? What was that quote again? Can you read it? Yeah, show the story.
And also, for the future, can we please limit comments and ask questions so that everybody has a chance to talk?
While he's looking that up, would you explain what happened? Not all of us know what you're talking about at first.
I found it, right?
Okay, okay, we'll come back.
There are no more new worlds. By the way, Professor, if this were a college class, you would get demerit points for not paying attention the first time.
No,
There are no more.
people.
There are no more. Did you guys not hear me the first time? The second time? There are no more new worlds. The unoccupied arable lands of the earth are limited and will soon be taken. The time is coming when the world will enter upon a new stage of its history, the final competition of races for which the Anglo-Saxon is being schooled. Then this race of unequaled energy with all the majesty of numbers and the might of wealth behind it, the representative, let us hope, of the largest liberty, the purest Christianity, the highest civilization having developed peculiarly aggressive traits, calculated to impress its institutions upon mankind, will spread itself over earth. If I read not amiss, this powerful race will move down Mexico, upon Central and South America, out upon the islands of the sea, over upon Africa and beyond. Can anyone doubt the result of this competition of races will end in the survival of the fittest? Nothing can save the inferior race but a pliant and ready assimilation.
He wanted to know the name, not the reader.
No, that's fine, that's perfectly fine. The purity of race, the purity of faith, right? 1880.
Your question.
My question is, well, I actually just have an observation. The way the Muslim women are dressed in this room appears to me to be in 1880, not 19th century. And what I'm just,
You have a right to question.
We are not going to make statements against women. You just did.
No, I said in 1880 it appears that this is the way the dress was.
You have a right.
No, what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to insult anyone.
We know.
I'm a Unitarian, actually. I go to the Unitarian.
Check them out.
I'm sorry, you are.
So now you're a minister handing out insult?
You denigrated.
Okay,
I said it in the appearance. I said the appearance as the appearance of women in the 1880s. What I'm trying to illuminate here is that.
You guys let the man speak. Please let him speak.
What I'm trying, would you let me speak? Thank you. I'm trying to. What I'm trying to say is, this is what is represented. This is what people see. They see something that's in an age gone by, an age that is not up to the current century. That's what I'm trying to say. And it appears to be that 1880 religion that you're talking about, and that's fearful to a lot of people.
Thank you. Let's stop it. He asked me a question, let me answer it. You were asked, I think the moderator asked the board, who decides who's a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim? In the same way I ask you, who decides what's modern and not modern? To what extent do I dictate when in this nation women cannot all walk around naked? I would like it. But you can't all walk around naked because the norms of a society have dictated that for some of you, it ain't right. And similarly, Muslim women, and by the way, not all Muslim women wear the hijab. My wife does not. My daughters don't. None of my sisters do. My mom do. My mom does. So don't judge because hot rights, etc., they wear this stuff too. So, I mean, generalizations are problematic.
Thank you. Your question.
Yeah, my name is Hassan Harris. My question, what we are witnessing tonight here, is it a political struggle or religious struggle? And how much do you think politics is playing over Islam or Islam over politics?
To whom are you directed?
Anyone in the panel was willing to attack it. And the second part of the question, how much of this you think the Palestinian problem has to do with it, especially with the obsession movement? Thank you.
Okay, let's end. The first question will be, Tom, and sure. Yeah. Whether it's a political or religious problem?
What I have found, and I have shown the film hundreds of times all over the place, Obsession, and there are free copies for those of you who have not seen it, who would like to take it, and then you can burn it or do whatever you want with it, but we'd like you to see it. I have found when I show the movie, in contradistinction to some of what's been set up here, if it's a Jewish and Christian audience of normal people, the first response is, oh man, we have a problem. Second response is, how do we help those Muslims that are trying to not be terrorized within the community? And as you start dissecting and analyzing a solution, in Islam you run into the mixture, where'd the guy go who just asked this? There you go. The mixture necessarily of political Islam and religious Islam. Allah equals law, democracy is man. Democracy, according to al-Zawahiri, bin Laden, is incompatible with, democracy is incompatible with Islamic law because only Allah can make law. And the articulation of a civilization by al-Zawahiri, bin Laden, and others is the infusion of political Islam and religious Islam. So it's very difficult to have these kind of conversations without talking about both of those. I'm saying in America, and the challenge is to you folks, if there was a flag in here, can you pledge allegiance as a Muslim to the flag of the United States and still worship Allah as you see fit, as my good friend Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is trying to do? If so, we pull political Islam out and religious Islam stays. As a Christian, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And I don't want my Christian religion, I don't want the Bible to be the law book. I want to inform the government, as every Muslim should. That's democracy. So whenever you talk about these issues, you're always going to bring politics and religion, two things you should never argue, into play. That's the way it is. Palestinian issue.
Well, wait, let's make sure everybody's okay
Sure.
on it. Okay.
I was going to say Dr. Mohammed is an expert because he believes that Israel-Palestine is for the Jew, not for the Muslim, and I think he has a phenomenal scholarly analysis of that.
I guess one thing that in watching the DVD, there was never a hint about the pervasive poverty that it just occupies all of the Middle East, oppressive governments. It's as though Islam is the cause and not the poverty, not the ignorance, not the dictatorships.
Well, according to this book right here, which is the doctrine of al-Zawahiri and bin Laden, and you can dismiss them as lunatics, they're brilliant philosophers, theologians. They say that they have two jihads, as you may know, offensive and defensive. They simply say that the defensive jihad is all of that. And it's necessary for Islam to propagate and continue fighting the defensive jihad. Once that's cleared up, they don't say, hey, we're not going to bother you. Now the offensive jihad is taking Islam to control the whole world. Philosophically, it makes sense if Allah is indeed God. They say it's now time to continue that until there's conversion, submission, or death. Okay. Your religion, according to bin Laden.
All right, the next question was, in what sense is the Palestinian issue part of the issue?
I'll take it. I'm sorry,